Right, what have we got today? Boosh, just a small one from Acebeam. Now, just recently I did a review of, where is it, there it is, of this one from Acebeam, and I was very happy. That was the Rider RX V2 or 2.0. Very nice. As with all Acebeam stuff, it's really, really well made, but sometimes you pay a premium in regards price for that, like some of the other premium bands. This one, very low, and we'll move on to that when I discuss the pros and cons, but very, very impressed with it so far. So Acebeam sent me this. They said, have a look at this, be honest, we won't tell you what to say, we won't tell you to edit anything, we won't see the video until it's released, say whatever you want, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. So I'm just letting you know Acebeam sent this to me. Okay, so here it is, it's the Keylite 500, and the number suggests it's max lumens output there, which happens to be 500. So I've gone for the black here. I think it comes in red, teal, orange, and there might be a pink one, but the pink one's not like a shocking pink or something ludicrous. It's more like a sort of a, I don't know, like a berry colour or like a very dark pink. So it's pretty good. Okay, so only 19 grams, and I'll quickly show you the box because it gets very boring. Not a lot to see there, or there. Nothing there, and I'll put it all back in the box. This is how it came, but obviously I have carried this for 2 weeks. So put this away. So there's the box, not interested in that. Boom, get that in the bin. There's the insert, so take that out, not interested in that, get a shot of that. That's their cable, which I have tested and it does work. So it is a type C to type A, and that is obviously omnidirectional. It does work C to C, and I'll prove that in a moment with my own cable. And there's the little lanyard that it comes with, because body wise you can stick it through there. It's hard though, so I never really use lanyards, and I use my own attachment methods, but there is one in there, and it's quite a nice one. It's got a bit of metal there, but just bear in mind you're going to have to try and get that split link, see it there, or split ring, whatever you would refer that as, through there, which I think is hard. I would rather do it with a piece of sort of something soft like that and feed it through, and then through past itself. I probably wouldn't use that, but then the other end is going to have to be connected to something, so you need to think about that, but at least you get that. Let's do the pull test on this. Should be all right. I'll do that until it hurts. Ouch, right, that's hurting. Yeah, that works absolutely fine. Get a shot of that. Here's the instruction book, and it's mercifully a small one. Watch, compared to some of the other ones, you pull it out and it's like a military, map of locations you need to attack, and you think, my goodness, but look at that, straight to the point. So I've done this in 4K, so if you want to zoom in and read that, you can. There it is in English, and that's probably in Chinese there. So there you go. For all the Chinese people who watch this, you have a little look at that. There you go. Boom, right, get rid of that. Keep those there. There's your little quality control warranty thing. I'm not really interested in that anyway. Right, so here it is. It's very well made. It's a CNC milled piece. They didn't even put one of those cheap flaps on, so I'll show you that in a second, but let's just look at the design here. So it's like an extended rectangle there, but look, beautiful. None of that coating has come off so far, so the quality, the Acebeam quality is there. Fit and finish is perfect, no creak whatsoever. They've used decent fasteners there. You can see little tiny torques there that they've used. It's all really well made. If you're wondering what this mechanism is there, instead of putting in, if I can find one, there's one. So if you look at like an older design, they tend to stick a bit of rubber on and go, there you go, there's a flap, that'll do. In this regards, I've actually bothered to machine this in. So look, it's actually got that, and that's metal as well. I mean, it's all aluminum, but look at that. And it's got like a little detent there and there, so it's got tension. So look. And then it clicks in. So they've even gone to that extent, even though the price on this I think is really low for an Acebeam. It's also got these sort of chamfered edges here. See how there's a slight drop point on that, just there and there. It's not on every corner, and then as you turn over, you've got it on the alternating corners there. Nice little feature there. I think that looks pretty good. And it is a dual emitter. So it's 500 lumens maximum. They didn't, well, or I was going to say they didn't tell me, and I can't find out what specific emitters they are, and I couldn't find the battery size, but obviously I have tested this, so I can attest that it has done decently. And then you have one button, which you may or may not see. There is actually an LED in there, so if you want to know what the battery level is, you just press it. You see how that's green for the first 3 seconds, and then it will extinguish. So what is that telling you? If that's green, you've got more than 30% battery. Once it is 30% to 10%, that will go red, on your initial activation anyway, and then if it starts flashing, you really need to charge it. It's less than 10% in battery capacity. So I love lights that have an easy to read, straightforward battery capacity. You don't have to click a load of UI components out to try and work out what's going on. Okay, so it is a 1.5 meter drop rating, so pretty good, especially for something like this, and it should be if it's solid, well made, CNC'd. aluminium, and I think they've done a decent job here. It's all, fit and finish, perfect, really, really nice. It is in IP66, so it's not completely waterproof, but I kind of, excuse me, that kind of goes along with the fact that you don't have rubber slots and things like that. You have this, so that will let in water. Although it's a beautiful piece there, it's going to lose in regards to something like that, where you have that shoved right in a piece of rubber. That's just the way it goes. But I think this is quite nice, and you can quickly get to it and then stick your charging cable in, and you're done. So in regards to how it looks, I'm very, very impressed. Only 19 grams, so I think that's probably, well, is it something like it's 22 grams for a couple of 50-cent pieces or something like that. So very, very light, and I really like it so far. Okay, so let's move on to my initial testing, and then what I'll do is I'll let you know about the UI. So I did some quick testing on the tint, just so you are aware. My testing, I got a tint Kelvin value of 5,688. So it's a nice tint. It's certainly not in the sort of 4,500 range, 5,000 range, which I would produce as sort of evidence of it being neutral. It's not warm and it's not white, so it's heading towards the white end of the spectrum, but it's not harsh. So if you don't like a harsh light, that is not what you're going to get here, because a lot of smaller lights tend to go for that harshness, and sometimes they'll use a tint closer towards 6,000 or plus, because it looks brighter. It doesn't necessarily mean it's more lumens, but it certainly looks brighter, and it's more reflective on certain surfaces and things like that. And the CRI was where we would expect for a non-specialist emitter there. Both of them there tested. The average I got was about 60, I think it was 69.5, 69.6. So it's around that 70% area. Sunlight is 100%. And in this regard, this is where you'd expect most emitters to be that aren't rubbish. As it drops below 70, it starts looking terrible. I mean, you can get ones, I think the K2 here has a high CRI feature on it, but not everyone wants that. You could argue that up close stuff, it's nice to have a high CRI, and yeah, I would agree with that. So I'm going to knock off half a point for that, even though I am going to give this quite a high mark. Right, so how does the UI work? So dead simple, on and off. It's very simple, and let's look at this. So if I use their own literature here, let's look at what this beam looks like. I mean, that's a little bit high, isn't it? So there, that's overexposed. So you can see there, in fact, let's just do one here. There you go. So you can see it's very, 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 even though it's a dual emitter, you would expect to see one beam pattern here and one there. It kind of evens out, even up close. Look. I find it difficult to see each of those. In fact, unless I do it really close on my hand at really low levels, there. That's the only time I can see the difference between the two beams there. You see the two circles. Other than that, I mean, even on camera, you can hardly see it. If I turn it down a bit more, if I put it on moonlight mode, there you go. There, you can see it is two separate emitters, but my goodness, as soon as you come back, not even like sort of an inch, it's diffuse out, and it's a very diffuse beam. So even though these are both slightly different, if you look at them, that one's almost slightly clearer and that one looks frosted. It isn't. They're both TIRs, which is a great way of diffusing the light, but they're slightly different in their build. So one is better up close and one's slightly more floody, but to be honest, once you come away, it all amalgamates into one piece, if you know what I mean. So it just, I don't even know why they did that. They might as well have just used one big emitter in the middle and they would have got a very similar beam pattern, but it does work and it's very nice. So I've got no problems with that. So again, one on, one off. And if you click and hold, you can go through them. If you want to quickly go to its lowest, which is moonlight, there, 1 lumen. I like that feature because it doesn't ruin night vision, and you can do that, pull it out your pocket, do that, read a map or do whatever, not use loads of cell, and then boom, straight back in your pocket and away you go. Now the normal ones you have to go through with a hold. So we'll go through them now. It's a reverser, so it doesn't go high, low, medium, high, it goes the other way around. So if you watch, so it's high, medium, low, high, medium, low. See? So initially, because there is drops on these outputs, so we'll go through them. So high is 200 lumens. Now, here's where it gets complicated. You get 200 lumens for 3 minutes, then it drops to 150 lumens. Then after 15 minutes, there's a further drop. I mean, I'll put up here, there. I'll put up there on the screen so you can have a look and you can understand these drops because it gets quite sort of confusing. Right, if we go to the next one, medium, 60 lumens. They are saying you will get 25 minutes on that, but then it will drop to 20 lumens. for 80 minutes or something, and then there's a secondary drop. It's only on low when there is no ramp down drop. So if we go to low, that's 10 lumens. There is no further drop on that. So right, get rid of that thing there. Boosh, right, get rid of that. So they're saying something like 44 hours if it's fully charged. So you know, I mean, that's pretty good. In fact, if I remember right, it's 44 minutes. Sorry, what am I thinking? So you're getting a decent amount of runtime on this for its, you know, really small size. But just bear in mind that, you know, Moonlight, they're saying 12 hours on these are their figures, not mine. So 1 lumen, and that's okay. But again, you can try from those output figures, you can probably guess that there's a very small cell in here, lithium ion. So just bear that in mind. It's just a keychain light though, so put that back on. So how do you get a turbo? Because turbo is 500 and that's the maximum. So, and again, that does have step down, but at least they've meticulously listed that. In fact, does it say it on here? That's Chinese. Might have it on there. There you go. So they've meticulously said that. So look, turbo there, 500 lumens for 20 seconds, not long, but it is a small light. Then 260 for 5 minutes. Then it drops again to 50 lumens, but that's 35 minutes. A lot of manufacturers will not even write this down. They'll just say 500 lumens, incredible, have a look at this. And then you use it and you think, well, good God, after 30 seconds, it's already dropped, and who knows how much, and who knows what the runtime is. So at least they've meticulously done that. Olight are sometimes good for doing this as well. They're very honest on the drop downs that they have. So just have a quick look at that there. So there you go. Right, so turbo, if you've got it on, just double press. So turn it on, double press, bang. And it's quite a stiff button, so it's harder to activate than by accident anyway. So pretty good. I'll show you the beam there. And there's plenty of videos at the end of this. I've done side-by-sides and walking and everything. In fact, I did another video, it's up there, a walk and talk, sort of walking along, using it and talking about it. So you go and have a watch of that if you really want to see real-time me talking and waffling and whilst using this light. Anyway, right, get rid of that. Boof. There you go. So it's pretty bright, but it's nice and diffuse, which a small light like this should be, because it's generally for close-up. You're certainly not going to get any push on this. So pros and cons. Before I do that, I just want to show you, here's some of the lights I looked at, and I will prove you that it does charge. So I'm going to use their cable. So let's stick it in here. There's the type A and then type C. So you just flick that little thing up there, and then you will notice there, see it's going red. It doesn't charge very fast, but again, it is a small cell, so it wouldn't, would it? So it flashes like that and it will go green when it is finished charging. So the question is, can you use it whilst it's charging? Yes, you can. So that's another nice feature. And does it do type C to C? Well, let's find out. So type C, and here's the other end of that to type C. Let's see what happens here. Boom, right, it's showing 2 there because it's thinking that the other one's still there, but it isn't. So let's see if it's charging. There you go, just to prove it. See the red there? And does it work? It does again. You can go through the modes. It's not just a single mode used whilst charging, because some are. So they've gone the full hog. You can go through all the different modes there. Even go into turbo. Brilliant. So you're covered in regards to charging. Right. Some other lights that I tested with, and you can see, you know, I just want to show you for scale. So this happens to be the Nightcore Tiki. There is a glow-in-the-dark version of this, but look, it's not that much bigger, is it? You could argue, well, this one is better because it has multi-functions on the side and things like that. And yeah, okay, it does, but do you really need that? I find myself, I used to carry a Tiki, and I found I never used these side lights, but if you need UV and red and strobe and all sorts of things, I mean, there is strobe on this, which you can get to straight away, 3 clicks, 1, 2, 3, strobe warning coming up, I'll cover it there. So you can immediately, from off, in the UI, get the strobe. I think that, again, that's another good feature. So here's the K2 from Astrolux again. Similar size, very similar size. But again, these have got like, is it triple clicks or something? You've got like glow modes and UV modes and you know, loads of different modes. They're all very similar. Now the ones that don't have the secondaries, I will look at here. So they're all secondary ones. They're all very similar sizes. You've got a one from X-Star and JetBeam and things like that. But you could look at one like this. Now this, just to show you the size, this is a AAA cell. Now I just happen to be using an AnyLoop Pro in there. So triple cell, again, you're not going to get a lot of output from this, you know, it's less than 200 lumens in total, but how much do you need? And it uses a micro lens set up there. So boom, 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 there you go. So again, do you need more than this? Who knows? You know, only you can answer that. I think this is like the middle ground between, it's nice and light, but it doesn't necessarily have all of these extra features that may or may not get used. I generally like them, but I don't really use them. So you've got, that's another little option there. And then I tested it against the old Tiny. Now I realize there's a Tiny V2, but as the lumens start increasing, it becomes an unfair test. Although you could argue, well, this is an unfair test, TrailTrek. What you're talking about, that is less lumens than that. You might think that. This is only 380 lumens maximum. It uses like a micro lens TIR setup there, but you'll notice on the side-by-side, and because the tint on this is quite white, they look very similar. So you might be, you might be thinking, well, that's not fair. But look at them side by side on the tests that I've done in the videos, and I've done like 9 all at the same time side by side, so you can compare exactly. And I think you'll be surprised, because I mean, you can get 1,000 lumens, 800 lumens, 700 lumens ones, just a little bit bigger than this. But I thought, is that a fair test? They're gonna blow this out of the water in regards maximum turbo output, and a side by side it makes it look this rubbish when it's not. It's really good, and up close it's great. Now when it comes to stretching out, no, it wasn't very good, but that's not what this is for, and it is a small TIR. I realize there are TIR throwers, yes, I get that. That's not what this is for. It's for, at an extreme push you can get a little bit of medium distance. But on the turbo, which again, remember, it drops down, just remember that. Yes, you get the turbo at 20 seconds, then you get 5 minutes at 260, so just bear that in mind. It will do that, and up close it is beautiful and lightweight and well made. So I think they've done a good job. So let's go through the pros and cons. Right. Pros: small, lightweight, very well built. Battery level indicator on the button, which I like. Direct strobe from off. It's a nice uniform light. The tint's pleasant. The CRI, the color rendering index, isn't too low where you think, ooh, that doesn't look very nice. So again, it's for the price as well. It's really good. It's got e-lock. Now, if you want to e-lock it, you just press and hold, and then it goes past the MacLeod, and then right now it's locked. So it's showing you that. So there, it's locked now. Nothing happens other than that will flash. To disengage that, double press. I would have liked to have seen triple press to disengage that, or just have triple or 4, like Andrew, just have 4 presses to lock, 4 presses to vice versa, to lock and unlock. I don't know why they didn't do that. That's what I would do. And the reason I say that is because I have a Tiny 2, a titanium version, and on Nightcore it's click and hold, and you would think that sounds really safe. Even in my pocket on my keys, and I'm quite careful where I place lights, even I've found that unlocked, and I've looked at my pocket at night and thought, why is that light on? And then the batteries run down. So I think triple and preferably quadruple click is a better method for e-lock. That's just my personal opinion. Or physical lockout. I mean, maybe they could have put one on here, something to click. I don't know, because that is becoming a thing on lights now. But anyway, I will put that as a con. So again, I'll knock a point off for that. But that's a lot of pros. Now, the only cons I can think of in this regard is that e-lock. That's all I can think of. And another pro is I saw this for some less than $20 for an Acebeam, less than $20. That's pretty damn good. So again, I'll nudge it up a little point for that. So other than the only con, which is I would change the lock mechanism. Now it is a stiff button, which is good. That's not a bad thing. It's not too stiff. Like I've got. Is it on the Acebeam or the JetBeam? Maybe one of the JetBeams where it's a bit too stiff. It's sometimes a little stiff on the K2, which is a safety feature, so it doesn't turn on, but that's what e-lock's for. And as long as you learn the UI, you should be using e-lock. So I'm going to give this 8.5. I think they've done an extremely good job. For the price, to get a hold of a nice Acebeam, excellent. OK CRI, pleasant tint, decent run times, small, well-built, battery level indicator, Type-C charging, works C to C. You can use, whilst it's charging, you can still use it. Low price, direct strobe from off. I find it very hard to find things I don't like. The only thing is, I would personally change that e-lock. Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think I'm overthinking this? Seriously, comments down below right now. What do you think of e-lock? I think it's an essential feature on a light that's going to be stuffed into a pocket. But what is your favourite method of e-lock? I think we need to discuss this, because the amount of lights realise I go walking out with pocketfuls of lights, and sometimes I'll think, why is that on? Why is that on? I did the e-lock, why? And it's failing. And that is terrible, because I've always said that the best flashlight is the one that you have with you at that moment in time. And if it's an emergency, you're stuffed if it's run down. And it can run down if the e-lock has failed. So something to think about there. Seriously, comments down below. we can have a good argument about it like normal. Okay, so 8.5 out of 10. Well done, Acebeam. I think they've done a decent job. I've done tons of outdoor footage, lots of side-by-sides where you've literally got 9 lights at once going. So I'll show you that now. I think they've done a decent job. Right, I'll let you get on with your day. Goodbye.